you doing? This is Mike from Mike's Random Thoughts. So, today's episode is going to be fairly long, and it's entitled Community. I wrote this out over a period of a couple days, and it's going to cover a lot of areas. So, if you're not a believer in the same faith as me, I still hope that you watch. It's going to be a lot of areas of community, but naturally I'm going to put a lot of aspects of my faith in it. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Community. This word, it seems simple, right? But what is the actual definition of it? The first definition of it is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular character traits in common. The second definition of it is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of things in common with each other. These days, it can be difficult to see common ground, however, with one another. There's just so much division no matter where you look at. Remember, when you understand what the principle of community is, have you noticed the destruction of community that's been unfolding before our eyes? It truly seems like it is in hyperspeed, almost like everything seems absolutely insane. Remember the way it used to be like? It really has not been that long ago. It just seems that way. I remember a time period where you could see America the way that America truly is, a huge melting pot of mixed different cultures. You could find kids of all shades and all ethnicities playing sports together in parks, such as basketball, baseball. It didn't matter. It was just a huge melting pot of different types of people. Do you remember when the Twin Towers fell? What happened when they fell? You saw everyone embracing each other, helping one another. It truly was the United States of America. And it really was not that long ago. Have people really forgotten the feeling that we saw unfold, which was true unity, regardless of race, regardless of financial background, true unity. Everybody was united. I remember thinking, back when Obama got first elected, this being the first African-American president, it didn't matter whether you agreed with his politics or not, whether you were Republican or Democrat, you still had to acknowledge the fact that it was a historic event when he got elected, being the first African-American president, which surely showed that America, or should have showed that America was truly past the actual bad part of the past that unfolded in America. Because now, you could even go all the way up to president. So, how did we get to so much division so rapidly? Personally, I always stood against racism when I was growing up. I actually have scars to actually prove that fact. To me, I saw culture. See, I loved learning about different cultures. I grew up on military bases, so I traveled a lot. To me, I loved history, so I loved learning about different cultures, and that's what I saw. And that's what most people that I talked to when I was overseas, or when I currently talk to people that's overseas, that's what they see. America is one big melting pot of many different people with freedom to be able to be themselves. Right now, though, there is just so much perversion. It seems like everyone is inflicted with the God complex, meaning the feeling that it's okay to play God. They do things like change their gender, change and alter weather patterns, or at least attempt to alter animals to create new ones. If you have the right amount of money, everything that you want to do is actually kind of possible. You quickly understand the meaning of money being the root of all evil when you view it this way. Politicians and the elite have sunken so low that they actually want to do bills to change the dating age to dangerous levels such as 13, including up to marital. So in some cities, currently, right now, it is not uncommon to see a woman walking a man on a leash, or a man walking a woman on a leash, literally as a basic human slave. To make them feel more comfortable, they mask it with psychological labels. You know the type. Sexual liberty, sexual freedom, expression. Dealing with an allergy affection currently, everybody. So, this is a time period, literally, and I've seen it with my own eyes when I worked in retail stores. I'm sure many of you have as well. But it's not uncommon to see mothers and their daughters dressed in outfits with their butts literally hanging out, breasts hanging out. And yet, people still can't figure out why so many young girls are ending up pregnant and having so many broken homes of their own because they haven't even had a chance to start a home. This is a time period where politicians, doctors, and teachers want to have children receive medical treatment without parental consent and allow children to get abortions as young as 14 in some cities. And that's been ongoing for many different years. So they want to say to end traditional marriage. This is a fancy way of saying in unions in multiple different religions. It doesn't matter what your religion is or culture. In multiple different religions, a man and a woman marrying is significant. It doesn't matter. Yet, at the same time they're doing this, they want to promote same-sex marriage and sex changes, quoting, "How revolutionary and historic it is for people to be free to express themselves." Ain't it though? To be free to live in their sin. As far as I see it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to go there yet. So many portals to fulfill your flesh desires. I mean, literally, they're just a click away. Anything that your flesh, aka lust or whatever you want to do, can literally think of is just right there in the palm of your hand and a click away. Justification for it, for your sexual sin, is also just a click away. Meaning that if you want to find a way to justify what you're doing sexually, and this is for spiritual people again, and you want to try to justify your actions, it's also just a click away. No matter what you can think of, somebody out there, chances are, probably has already come up with a way to make it okay to do. Anyways, so the devil seems to be working overtime. I mean, many of us hold our desires and sexual sins just right on our phones. We could pull them up anywhere, right? And phones are getting smarter, so they're able to do even more stuff. Yet people can't figure out why right now divorce rates are just flying, skyrocket high. They call the number one symbol of freedom the American flag a symbol of hate. Our anthem is despised by many of our own citizens. The Christian cross in churches are actively being burned, and they call it a peaceful protest. Destructions of God's house is viewed as an acceptable form of protest. Yet, at the same time this happened, preachers were getting locked up. Some still have not been released, simply for preaching. You can get arrested nowadays for praising God. Yet, the lgbtq community can make cartoons with children's songs enticing them to their way of thinking, literally using basic psychology to try to justify it. They could steal the symbol of God that was brought forth as a sign of never destroying the earth in the way that he did once before with the big flood. Talk about Noah's flood right there. The rainbow. And they could declare that their symbol up to the point of trying to get it copyrighted. And then at the same time turn around and declare God's Bible and people preaching hate speech, as well as go farther and alter it to fit their viewpoints. Right now they're currently printing out many different Bibles, altering God's word to make children feel like it's perfectly fine with living the way that they want to live right now. So, to get life-saving medicine, it is skyrocket high priced. Yet a vaccine that many Americans do not want to even get is completely free, almost to the default of trying to force you. Once they realize the government can't force you, the government encouraged our employers to force us. Funny how that works, right? But anyways, if you disagree with this science or any of the science, they label you a terrorist. Such a strong word, and this happens for a reason. Simply, one word: reaction. During the lockdown, the world leaders showed their loyalty to the dollar instead of their citizens. They turned on God at the same time. They took God out of school years ago, out of television and movies, less and less and less. They quit praying to God in public places, and instead, they started trusting in their own self-power, saying, we did this, I did this, the people did this, but never giving God the credit. So corporations, they no longer have like large sections about God, like retail-wise, or Christian merchandise for that matter. And have you noticed what Walmart did? Over the past couple years, every single section gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Most Christians have responded to this kind of treatment with making their own merchandise and selling it online. I mean, at this point, people of this faith, they simply have no other choice. You don't want to sell our merchandise, then we'll just simply make it ourselves and sell it ourselves. So instead of human interaction, sorry about that, guys, hold on. Instead of human interaction, which is proven crucial to the human development and to the mind of the development, they want us to normalize isolation. They want church doors closed, yet liquor stores and dispensaries open. Gyms and parks, which are crucial to your development for activity and healthy living, they got closed, but they made sure to keep fast food restaurants open. Which are what? Distributors of what? Unhealthy food. It's good and I eat it myself, but come on, it's unhealthy. In short, they make it easy for us to poison ourselves, but yet difficult to naturally and spiritually heal ourselves. See what I mean? This affects everybody, not just Christians. Everything currently right now costs so much. Both parents often have to work just to get by. And that's barely getting by at that. Barely seeing each other, interactions with children have become simple, small conversations at the dinner table. Maybe an appearance, except on for like holidays. Or I meant except for holidays because everybody's getting together, Yet again, can't figure out why there's so many broken homes. Whenever you're making it so difficult economically for Americans to actually have families, meaning traditional marriage to function properly, by both parents having to work and kids resorting to just text messages, parents, and barely small conversations because their school load is so heavy and our workload is so heavy that they're making it hard for us simply to have a family. They started that like years ago though. But outdoor activity, right, has become replaced, and if it hasn't fully, they're working on it, with simulated environments. They will claim it's due to climate extreme ranges or a disease outbreak again. But this is to cause more separation and isolation, eventually giving in to depression and sickness. Some things you just cannot be assimilated, like real earth smells and real nature sounds and real touching and feeling, exercising of all of our senses, basically. Dating, this is another form of isolation. A lot of people currently are living out their lust and sexual sin actively in real time. See, a booty call, that's just a swipe away. If you don't know the site, don't worry about it. Facebook, man, it's going to have an ad for you, right? If you have self-esteem issues, they have virtual reality pornography that's a click away. With headphones, they claim it's as close to the real thing as you can get. Often, they have hypnosis features in this type of pornography. You do the math on why they want to do that. Anyways, so many new rules. Kids, they cannot court anymore. For those of you that don't know what I'm referring to, for the youngsters, courting is another word for dating. You can be accused of sexual harassment so easily that there's no more dating. They just simply go online and swipe right or swipe left, just like their parents do. With so many homes being split apart, many of them say, I don't want to get married and I don't want to have kids. I just want a reliable booty call and friends with benefits. And, and then on top of it, they go and they rate it behind it. Normally behind the person's back. But anyways, how was your experience kind of thing, They want to legalize all drugs. I don't think that it is for anything else other than further isolating people. Look, to be honest, it seems okay, right? That's what we want to tell ourselves. At first, think about it. What is self-control? Do you really feel that people have enough self-control, knowing that it is legal? And no, I am not talking about cannabis. I'm a supporter of cannabis. I am talking about cocaine, ecstasy, and heroin being dropped down in cities like Portland and other cities around Washington and California down to misdemeanors, resulting in skyrocket overdose rates, as well as suicide rates and divorce rates. And worse, kids younger and younger are actually currently using in those places. More and more doctors and scientists are developing a godlike complex. They try to alter the weather, and they try to find ways to alter human genetics, changing God's genetic design. It reminds me how I read once, the ultimate insult to God is to change his design of man and women. It's not bad enough that they took religion out of government schools, music, and movies. No, now they want to change his design and alter the weather. Worse, they pass it off as normal. I once heard Bill Gates say the best way to kill off the population is with a controlled virus, and the best way of doing that is through a vaccine. So doing so would save the resources of Earth. That, my friends, is the very definition of playing God, aka God complex. If money truly is the root of all evil, I think it is safe to say that it is true at this point. Look at things that the wealthy and elite have said and done. And I'm just saying, right on at this point. A time period, simply having an American flag in front of your house can be a reason for a formal protest of a property being destroyed. All because of a wealthy NFL player taking a knee a couple years ago that people simply haven't got over. Now, that simple action of his triggered so much hate across the nation. What seems like a good idea at the time, sometimes people can actually be a horrible idea. See, it started hate against the police, the flag, and its current sitting president at that time. It started a strong division line. One where yourself is either on one side or the other, no matter if you want to be or not. People need to understand this old lesson. Anything started with anger, hatred, will only end in destruction and chaos. Traditionally, us in society have had a sense of structure. We have had law enforcement to protect us. We have had military protect our country and our allies. We had health officials to protect our health. Teachers to mold our children's futures. But have you noticed what happened? Now, because of the need of the elite to show off, we have lockdowns. We have medical systems currently fractured. We have political systems fractured. We have so much hatred against law enforcement that most law enforcement officials are actually walking away from the profession. So much mistrust in the government that our soldiers are actually quitting and walking away at record-breaking numbers. So many teachers are pushing socialist agendas and LGBTQ perverted agendas that most parents are currently debating even letting their kids attend public school. So much fighting that some schools are actually thinking about separating children in a separate building. One for masked, one for non-vaccine, et cetera, homeschool, non-homeschool, blah, blah, blah. So it is a strange time for us to actually be raising kids in. Chances are you have been told this before, at least I have, by my buddy Malice, who's in Australia. He said it's a really funny time to be raising kids in, Mike. That's the way he feels. He doesn't have kids. But anyways, if not more than one time. Am I right? Often, I say, I'm glad I'm married. I would actually hate to be single in this time period. I've watched clips of people just trying to talk to someone, either being accused of sexual harassment or being a male machist or a bigot or etc. Kids are taken in broad daylight nowadays, and people just start filming on their cell phones. Maybe if you get lucky, one or two people actually try to stop it from happening. But guess what? They mean by last of a dying breed. You notice something. It looks like sometimes it could be a cause for a fight nowadays. You can't just sit as a guy. You can't just sit down if you're a guy on public transportation anymore. Literally, women have started saying, you're sexist for manscaping. Manscaping is when a man just basically sits down and they feel like our legs are open too much. In fact, in Russia, around 3 years ago, a man had chemicals poured across his lap and face for that very reason by a feminist protester. If you wear a conservative hat, you'll get a violent reaction outburst. Even if they're an underage person wearing the hat, or even a woman. If someone dislikes your political viewpoint, you could actually lose your job, or worse. And yes, we still got quite a bit to get through. Okay. So at this point, the feeling really seems to be that most people feel hopeless, right? Like it's hopeless to even try to fight. I know we all get that feeling. The whole world seems to be broken and full of darkness. There is yelling, fighting, financial problems, marital problems, kids are committing suicide, and addiction rates are climbing. You turn on the news. Why bother, right? I know you're right. All they peddle is misery. After all, misery loves what? Company. Get them all hopeless, get them depressed, and eventually they will get sick, and then they'll die. See, it is not hopeless. Your country is not beyond repair. Your community is not beyond repair. We have to remember something. Community, what it was before the chaos broke out. What was it that you actually enjoyed doing before the lockdown, before the fighting, and before the division? Also, we need to get back to God. People make memes often, saying, things are fine, insert joke here. I think we need to remember, America was founded upon freedom. Religious principles. This is the reason we need to get back to putting God first as a nation. I think that once society started to slip, once they attacked God, once we put our schedules ahead of God, say what you will, things got entirely too far, has it not? Things really have gotten entirely too far. I can't emphasize that enough. I wish I could, and I could try to. And, it really has gotten out of pocket. And a lot of the stuff I actually supported at the beginning until it got too extreme and crazy for me. So I can understand that as Americans, we want to have freedom, right? However, as a Christian, I'm against the LGBT community lifestyle. Personally, as an American, I did not care myself what you actually did behind closed doors. Look, I did not care if I saw a gay couple. Could care less. I only cared once it became a political issue, as well as being pushed on children's programs and schools. See, the COVID situation, honestly, if it did not become such a heated political issue and being pushed on the general public, I might have listened more. Now, I simply just don't have any trust in them at all. I used to hate racism, and I still do. However, it has been used as a political weapon and utilized to cause so much damage to people out of spite. So much. So when I hear someone say that someone is racist, my first thought is no longer what happened. It is what? Did someone get upset at someone else? I mean, what they do? Like bully them in high school? Did they like pee on their Fruit Loops? I mean, they have tarnished the word racist and racism so much and used it as a political weapon, that it's just ruined forever. With rape, the same thing has occurred, being used as a political weapon and a character assassination tactic in politics so much that my first thought personally is, what, from 30 years ago? Instead of, oh my God, what happened to the girl? Let me listen. My first thought is, oh, I bet you this is something from 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And I know I'm not alone in that thought process. So one day, I went to post something, and I realized this emotion that I was actually feeling. That it was when I had to ask myself a very hard question as a podcaster and as a blogger. Am I contributing to the division too much? Have I let myself become consumed with the madness myself? That brings me to the point of this whole episode. No matter whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or a conservative, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a New Age philosopher, black, white, or any shade, straight or gay, you have to be able to see the wickedness these politicians are playing with our lives and communities. How do we get to so much craziness? See, words, they hold power, and so do images. This is why they are using ones that strike out anger and depression, casting a sense of hopelessness and desperation. See, earlier, I said that we as a nation, we need to get back to God. Would the devil like nothing more than see the destruction and the faith of God in a whole nation? A nation that was founded on the principle and the belief of a God, what more would the devil love more than anything than see the destruction of it and the destruction of faith in the God by the citizens? I would wager taking him out of school was a pretty good start of all of this. Trying to take him off of currency, it wasn't that long ago. And have we forgotten what happened? What about them trying to declare conservative viewpoints hate speech? When the side of politics is known to push Christian principles as well as protect them, I would say the answer is pretty obvious. Look, if you're honest with yourself, the principles are not a bad thing. They really are good character traits. Hear me out on this. The Freemasons have a saying. They require you to have a belief in a higher power. The reason for this really is not that hard to understand. Studies have shown that when you have a belief in God, where you have accountability for your actions in the afterlife, it makes you have a better moral compass in life. It makes you function more in life. It makes you want to be a better person. See, here's the thing. When you believe in yourself primarily, chances are you are either stressed and have anxiety, have blood pressure issues, you're worried and you're angry all the time. See, this is because you are walking through life actually alone. Trust me, I've actually been there. Because I have too. I used to say I make my own destiny. I did this. I was always focused on making money and my self-image. Honestly, although sure I had great times. And I have seen amazing things in my life. I truly have. I've seen things, I've talked to people that said that they don't think that they'll ever see. And I've met a lot of cool people along the way. Yet somehow, I've always felt unfulfilled. I was always angry and I was stressed out in some kind of way. But once I found God, my life significantly actually changed. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I still get stressed. However, I have faith in a higher power. This is how I understand things so clearly. So, am I going to get all religious on us, right? Probably eventually, and chances are I already have, and I'm going to continue. So, however, I don't think this is, in this case, though, I have to, though. Because as we have shown in this episode already, once they started attacking God on many different aspects and methods, our society has clearly started falling into darkness. So with this said, I do not think you have to be a Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. You clearly can see by now that having faith in a higher power makes one have better moral values. They make society function more peacefully. People raising their kids with these type of beliefs, often the kids end up more respectful and turn up better in life. Long-term beneficial, better for life. I'm not talking about wealth revenue. All right, due to their belief systems that they were brought up to. Core dead center would be in your body, right? Your core. So your gut and your heart. So this is why I find it interesting when I hear common sayings. One's like, trust your gut. It's just your self-conscious. It's just your own self-awareness. It's not really God. It's your own self-consciousness, you know. When both actually could be viewed at the same time as the same thing. See, the Holy Spirit would reside in where? It would reside in your gut, which means your center. And if you're of a New Age, your chakra. So it has been guiding you forever. More than likely. And you have not known it. This is because God is always watching and always guiding. So what did Jesus or the Bible say about community anyways? I got asked that one time. So Mike, what is, Jesus didn't say nothing about community. What did the Bible say about community? So I'm glad I'm glad you're wondering that. I was actually floored when I actually realized it. So, with that said, let's look at what the Bible actually says about community. And for those that don't know, yes, I do own a physical Bible. It's not everything's electronic. That's my actual Bible. So we're going to look at Ephesians 4:11 through 16. As he himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers, equipping the saints for the work of the ministry to build up the body of Christ, until we reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of God's Son, growing into a maturity with a stature measured by Christ's fullness. Then we will no longer be little children, tossed by the waves and blown around by the very teachings of human cunning and cleverness and the techniques of deceit. But speaking the truth in love, let us grow in every way unto him who is the head of Christ. So right there was instructions on how to function as a society. And that was Ephesians 4:11 through 16. My version was CSB that I was using. So so fulfilling what God has planned for our lives and how to function. Prophets, teachers, evangelists, pastors. So, you know what I mean? I'm going into the actual list. To build up the body of Christ. And once we do this, we will be mature to see through the cunning and cleverness and the techniques of the deceit, which is the devil's favorite tool. And honestly, I would say, again, it's kind of obvious. Why everyone is so out of their mind. Giving into one's flesh emotions such as anger, bitterness, lust, distrust, hopelessness, sickness. It's because we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing as Christians. Instead, we are doing either what our flesh or our self desires is wanting. For the Bible does say, many are called, but few are chosen, right? So I think if we get back on track, society would be ultimately get better. I mean, how could it possibly not? See, he did give instructions on how we should function in society. I just went over this. Remember, if we try to live independently of God, to be self-sufficient, we will only get bad results, because God never intended us to be alone. We have to remember there is strength in numbers. Walking in faith according to the Word of God, fellowships among like-minded individuals. We can continue to grow as a community. With a belief in God in your life, you will have peace and you will have purpose. It will have a trickle effect to the people around you. Being a Christian is kind of interesting that way. Because a trickle effect in a community can be seen. It's subtle, but it can be seen. So to myself, it really is not that hard to figure out. Maybe if we get back to a belief in God and biblical principles, then we can unite against the true enemy, which is the devil, Satan, whichever you want to call it, and however you want to call them, and their wicked agenda that they have going on in play. They can have a battle. We can all have a battle more accurately this way. I'm just saying, can I at least get an amen on that one, right? Then, if you are part of the heavenly family, I suggest that you quit half-stepping, honestly. Let's get serious. Saying, good, I'm saved. I'm telling you, I'm good. I'm saved already. I don't need to worry about it. My life moves quickly. We are living on borrowed time. And what do I mean by borrowed? A community, again, we cover that. We are part here to fulfill a calling on our life, right? God controls that clock of your life. For he is the Alpha and he is the beginning, and that means he knows when your time is up. Not you and not some psychic. So many of us, especially as men, all have one thing in common. Truthfully, you already know where I'm going with this. We don't like to submit to anyone. For that matter, many of us have had a hard time to submit to God. The reason is then we have an actual accountability for our actions with no chance of planning a defense ahead of time. So the feeling of submitting to God is difficult to many. So they foolishly just play themselves. Rocky, come here. By half-stepping through the game of life. Yes, us Christians men as well. We need to get back to writing for Jesus instead of writing for self-profit and self-gain. We need to get back to applying biblical principle to our households. We need to get back to leading by example. Again, both to our children and neighborhoods. Remember that trickle effect I was talking about earlier? Now, with that said, women, you're not off the hook on this one. Women are created as men's partner, yes? We know you are not a servant, women. We know this. As Christian men, we know you're not our servant. You are a partner. You're part of our yoke. You're other half, which means you're part of us. So I personally feel feminism has actually killed so much of women spiritually. Not women are naturally better at. And what do I mean by this? God's unique gift to women. That men, we don't have these gifts because we're men. What are those gifts? Those gifts are nurturing, caring, compassionate, and stronger in the opposite areas of men. And believe me, they are. They're patient and they're kind. However, why is that? Why are all those contributed to women commonly? Because women were made to be partners, not slaves. Truthfully, women are vicious protectors of their homes and their families. Naturally, it just happens that women need to get back to being godly women. Now, guiding their children in all areas, including spiritually. Caring for their family and their homes. Have you ever looked at the pack of lions? I mean, you mess around with one of the lioness, or you mess around with one of the cubs, who is it that attacks you? A lot of times it's a pack of female lionesses that will attack you, and they will tear you apart. You get what I'm saying? And it'd be like every single one of them would jump on you. So if more women turn back to God and godly ways of living, I don't think none of this nonsense that's going on in these communities would actually be happening. Because there was a time, and it really wasn't that long ago, when all of the neighborhood moms were moms. They knew what was happening in their community intimately and instantly. If something went down, every single chicken in a whole neighborhood would know what? They'd be clucking. You mess up, and they would call your moms on you. One of the other moms would call your moms on you, you know what I'm saying? Or just grab you and bring you to your mom's house. Remember the aspect, ladies, of what traits women naturally have, right? So what would happen? Now put it together now. Now the community would actually function better. If men start being men, women start being women again, the communities would do what? They would get back to functioning again. Ultimately, being more peaceful again. So with that mind state of thinking and that mindset of thinking of community would unite once again and be peaceful. Life would return to normal. Again, how could it possibly not? Then again, our takeaway should be unity, community, spiritual mindset, community growth, spiritual growth, godly values with life, and everything will get back to normal. Now that was what I had written down so far, and I'm only 41 minutes in, so I'm actually making extremely good time. Hold on a second. So again, let me know what you think of this one. I know it was my first Christian podcast episode. That was my thoughts on community and how I feel about community. And I think that if we get back to that, the things I was saying, that things would get back to normal. And what I'm talking about, I'm not necessarily talking about the Andy Griffin aspect, like Leave It to Beavers or however you would put it. I'm talking about just in general, the mind state of the community. Back in the day, whenever you would mess up and all the women would know about it, or if you were a kid, like all the neighborhood moms would everybody would just know everything, The dudes were handling business at work. They would know what's going on with the politics. They would know what's going on at their jobs. They would know what's going on if some dangerous event happened to the community or something like that. Women would know what's going on with the children. Women would know what's going on with the stores. Women would know what's going on in general about everything that's going on around them. Things just somehow seem to be better. Even if you were poor or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. I think there's a reason why everybody in life is so close to their grandmothers and grandfathers. It's because we all deep down inside know that's the way things are supposed to be. And for some reason, I think it's out of conformity or a sense of wanting to belong to something. It seems that so many people have cast aside their own beliefs and their own principles just to make themselves appear to be more woke, to be more self-conscious and freedom. Right now, currently as a Christian, I can honestly say the one thing that I disagree with the most that's going on would honestly have to be the aspect of so many people trying to justify these things. Now, again, you heard me say that at times I was part of a lot of this stuff, mind state, that I thought a lot of it was good until it got too crazy. There's levels of these lifestyles that should remain behind closed doors. It shouldn't become normal behavior. If you're involved in those lifestyles, how could you sit there and justify yourself in justifying life being like that? And I'm sure if you're truly part of it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're honest with yourself, that's a horrible idea. For the kids to think that kind of behavior is normal, that's what you want for them? You want the hell that you went through mentally? I'm not talking about bullying. I'm not talking about people making fun of you. I'm talking about the psychological mental games that you went through. That's what you want for the children? The bottom half of your face is crucial for the mental development of a child between the ages of 1 and 8 years old. It's very crucial to them, both to make them feel more comfortable and understand things. And we're taking that away from them and wondering why they're going crazy. So, I know we covered a lot, and this is my first all-Christian podcast episode. So I'm hoping that it turned out good. I'm probably going to do a couple more of them to see where it goes. And I hope everybody enjoyed. This has been Mike for Mike's Random Thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Like I constantly say, I live in the South Midwest in Oklahoma. And as you can hear by all the frogs and everything around me, it is humid and it is hot. That's why I had to take off my glasses. They'll start all the sweat pouring down from the bottom of them. But anyways, everybody have a great day, and stay blessed, stay doing your thing. And if you're not one, that's cool, man. Hopefully you can still take away something from this episode. Hopefully there's something in this episode that you could agree to, because most of the episode was designed by commonality. And what I mean is it was designed with the idea of speaking to everybody. These are basic ideas. This isn't necessarily a Christian ideas. It's not necessarily Muslim ideas, and it's not necessarily Jewish ideas. It's basic ideas that are spawned off of those belief systems. It just so happens I'm Christian, so I'm going to go into more of a Christian aspect of it. But again, the areas that I actually talked about, aside from the Bible verse, were areas that apply to everyday life globally, no matter where you are and no matter what faith you are. It's just common sense things that society should function like. So again, this has been Mike from Mike's Random Thoughts. Peace, love, and good vibes. Everybody have a blessed day. Stay you, stay healthy, stay spiritually growing, physically growing, and enjoying life. Life goes quick. You know, it's gone in a blink of an eye. It really is. It truly is. So get out there and enjoy it. You know, for all those people stuck behind devices or whatever, I mean, go out there and enjoy it. Experience it before it's all gone. You know? Mike from Mike's Random Thoughts. Peace, love, and good vibes. Have a blessed day. Later.